I have a confession. I am a recovering nice guy. Like when my friend would ask, Glenn, what kind of music do you want to listen to? I'd say, whatever music you're into, because I wanted to be a nice guy. But here's the truth. I love electronic dance music. The heavy bass drops, the fist pumping, because I'm also recovering from something else, being from New Jersey. And I've been on some serious nice guy benders, especially when I was romantically interested in someone. I'd be such a nice guy that eventually, all the nice things I do for her, it'd make her smile. And then finally, she'd tell me that she likes me as a friend. But hey, I beat my nice guy addiction, and it was because of my wife, Therese, who showed me the power of kindness. Yes, there is a difference between being nice and being kind. The difference is in motivation. So if your motivation is for validation, you're being nice. If your motivation is for connection, you're being kind. So if you hold that door open for someone, hoping they see what a gentleman you are, you're being nice. But if you hold that door open to make their day a little bit easier, you're being kind. And here's the thing. When we're stressed and overwhelmed, being nice is the first thing that goes away. And that was a hard lesson I learned after work one day. Because when I get home, I start my other full-time job, being a father to my 2 young daughters. And I do the best that I can, and I try to be as present as possible, but I'm exhausted. And tonight, I asked for a goodnight hug. But my oldest daughter, Eleanor, is in a mood. I mean, she's not even a teenager yet. And I try being nice, and the mood continues. And here it is. I just want to thank you. Some sort of validation for the hard work I'm putting in. But Eleanor looks at me, gives me a pouty face, turns around, and I don't get my goodnight hug. So I lose it. I scream, I yell, I get lost in my rage, and all I can see is red. And it feels familiar, but I'm on the other side this time. Because when I was a kid and my parents were upset with me, they would explode in anger. So I storm out of the room, and Eleanor goes to bed, crying herself to sleep. Afterwards, my wife, Therese, pulls me aside, looks in my eyes, and with a deep seriousness, she says, Glenn, you cannot do that again. The holding it in, the exploding, you need to do better. Eleanor needs a father she can love, not fear. She needs to see who I see. And that's my wake-up call. I had been repeating this pattern of explosive anger that I had learned from my parents. And this cycle of anger was triggered by me trying to be nice, seeking validation. And it took my wife, Therese, connecting with me through kindness to recognize that this cycle needed to be broken. Now, the reason I share this deeply personal story is because I recognize unbroken cycles occurring in our educational system today. And look, I love being a dentist. I love being an educator. But I'll tell you what, I wouldn't do dental school again. It's been over a decade, and I remember like it was yesterday. I'm sitting in simulation lab, preparing a crown, and I bring my tooth up to my row instructor. He looks at it for a few seconds, tells me it's terrible, of course, and tells me to do it again. So I'm like, okay. 10 minutes later, do it again. The only feedback I get is that it's terrible and to do it again. 8 more teeth, 8 more times, and it's the same feedback. It's terrible. So lab finally ends, and my tooth does get approved when he's ready to go home. I guess he was just being nice. And to be clear, I am not afraid of hard work, and it takes a lot for me to give up. But I didn't learn much dentistry that day. What I learned was what it felt like to be hazed. And I know this story isn't unique. There are many faculty in this audience where you have your own version of this story from your grad school or your residency. And it wasn't because it was tough. It's because we were beat down. And what hurts me is that I still hear students say the same thing today. There's this cycle. I was taught like this, I suffered through it, and I turned out okay. It's just how it's always been. But why is that? As dentists, we first started as tradesmen alongside barbers and surgeons, and we evolved. So why hasn't our educational experience done the same? And I've asked my colleagues, what would have made it better? And it wasn't more clinical experience, it wasn't more research opportunities, but simply more connection, more kindness. Look at massive disruptions like COVID-19. What happens to a place when it isn't rooted in kindness? A recent study evaluated over 200 healthcare organizations on the impact of the pandemic. They reported a 50% burnout rate and 1/3 of the workforce intending to leave the job. People burn out, people leave. That's the cost to us, because great education alone is not enough anymore. We have the opportunity to create a different experience. We can create a cycle of teaching rooted in kindness, because if we don't, we're just being nice about it. My student Rachel, she taught me a powerful lesson. She emails me the night before a midterm, and typically, the night before a midterm is filled with last-minute emails from students asking about the exam. But Rachel's email is different. She shares with me that she's listening to my lecture on children with special healthcare needs, and she's in tears. I have one slide about people first language. It's referring to a person first, then the condition. So for example, it's a child with cerebral palsy instead of a CP kid. And Rachel shares with me that her younger brother, Tim, has Down syndrome. And for his entire life, people see his Down syndrome, but not him. And that this is the first time in her entire education that a professor emphasized people first and using it as a way to connect. I was moved. And it could have ended with just that. But this spark of kindness catalyzed a chain of connection, which led to a mentorship relationship, which then led to a mindset shift for Rachel to pursue pediatric dentistry, an area she had previously had no interest in, which then led her to connect to the value of the University of Maryland. And this past July 1st, Rachel is one of our residents. So if one slide in a 1-hour lecture could create a spark of kindness that would transform Rachel's career and life, what if we intentionally use kindness every time we teach? Imagine how everything would change. But to be sustainable and part of our campus culture, we need to practice kindness. Because when we practice kindness, it creates belonging. And when we feel like we belong, we connect more with our work. Then we attract and retain the best people rather than being at risk to lose them. We move from being told, "You're a good teacher," to being told, "You changed my life." Then we are in a cycle of teaching rooted in kindness. With my student Rachel, I took a spark of kindness, and that catalyzed this chain of connection, which transformed her life. So let's begin our own chains of connection. I'll share with you 2 simple questions you can use when you teach. So when you get back and you're teaching a student, ask these two questions. Number one, are you ready to receive feedback right now? This check-in lets you know if your teaching is going to be more effective now or later. Number two, what are you trying to get better at? This lets you meet your student where they are at and then teach for maximum benefit. Are you ready to receive feedback right now? What are you trying to get better at? Now, the reason these work is because they begin with connection. Connect first, then teach. This is practicing kindness, and small, consistent actions are what sustainable shifts are made of. And as we create more chains of connection, we change. We change ourselves, we change each other, we change our profession. Then we create a sustainable culture of kindness. And I know this seems overwhelming and too large to tackle, and that's why I like to take it step by step in the right direction. Which means for me, continuing to be a kind professor, and when I get home, being a kind father at bedtime, especially on the nights when my kids aren't ready for a hug yet. Thank you.